Now, as per the instructions, what we're going to do is we're going to remove our cap. There again, be careful that you don't get any of the liner on the paint. And we're going to let this thing sit for about 8 to 10 minutes with the vent off of it, so the air can get to it. It can kind of allow the liner to skin over. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to put the cap back on it. I'm going to roll it around again, and then I'm going to set it in a different position. Remove the vent again, and then we're going to let it set for another 8 to 10 minutes to allow different areas of that thing to skin over. What you want to avoid doing is you don't want to just leave this stuff sitting there like it is and let it dry, because it's just going to make a big puddle down at the bottom. It'll take forever for it to dry. And you're also not going to get a good coating on the areas that you want covered. And that's looking real good in there too, by the way. So, I'm going to let it sit here and vent for a little bit. Okay, I've let it set for a few minutes. I'm going to cap it back off again. Then I'm going to repeat the process. I'm going to roll this tank around. Allow that tank liner to get all over those surfaces again. Then I'm just going to let it sit there for another 8 to 10 minutes. Then I'm just going to repeat the process of recapping it, rolling it, remove the cap. Then I'm going to set it in a different position, and I'm just going to do that over and over again until I'm satisfied that I've got pretty much all the surfaces coated real good. Now, once I've got the inside of the tank completely coated with a good coating of liner, now I'm going to remove the petcock, and I'm going to drain any residual liner back into the bottle, and I'm going to cap it back off. Then I'm going to set this thing aside, and I'm going to let it dry for several hours. Then we'll go back and take a look at it, and if the tank is not lined to the thickness I desire, then I can go back, I can pour this remaining liner back in there, go through the whole process again of rolling and setting and letting it vent until I get that tank coated the way we want it. Now, once I got the fuel tank coated to the thickness that I thought looked really good, I just set the tank aside and I let it dry for a few hours so it would kind of set real good. And then for the next couple of days, what I did with this thing is I just set it right outside out in the sunlight, and that way it would kind of warm the tank and it would allow that liner to cure real well. Now, a little trick that I've learned over the years that helps kind of speed this process along. Of course, you're going to have the gas cap's going to be off. You're going to have the petcock out of it. What I've learned to do with these things is I'll take me a couple of boards and I'll lay them down and I'll flip the tank over onto its top to where it's setting upside down, and have a little air gap between the neck and whatever item you're setting it on. Because what I've learned is the fumes that come off of this liner while it's drying is actually heavier than air. And so if you flip the tank over, then those fumes will just kind of pour out of the neck of that gas tank while it's sitting upside down. And of course, fresh air will come in through the fuel petcock opening. And you'd be surprised at how much quicker that this will cure out when you set it up that way. And especially setting it outside when it's a good sunny day, where it can warm that tank up, just adds to the process and helps move that on a little bit quicker. Now, what I'll do with this thing is, now that it's completely cured out, I'm still going to let it sit for a few days before I put the petcock back on it and actually pour fuel into it. That way we'll know that this is completely cured all the way through. So let's take a little bit closer look and see how it looks on the inside. Let's take a look over in that neck there. You can see around the opening of the neck, I tried not to get any of the fuel tank liner on the actual sealing surface where the fuel cap runs. That way it can seal off a little better. But you can see down in there, we've got a good coating, good thick coating of the liner in the filler neck and all the internal surfaces that I can get down here with the camera to show you. But it turned out real well. I'm real tickled with that. Now, one other thing I'll kind of show you here that I didn't really mention while we were coating this thing. On this particular machine, the gas tank actually vents through a tube that comes out of the bottom of the tank, and it actually runs up the backbone and up around the filler neck around this area somewhere. The gas cap itself doesn't actually vent, but what I ran into when I started getting all the rust and putting the acid treatment and everything to this tank, that tube somewhere between here and where it terminates up there at the top of that tank rotted completely in two. So basically I noticed when I was flushing this thing out, I could have like a quart of water in this thing and it'd be pouring out of the spigot. So normally what you would do when you're doing your liner, every time that you would stop rolling the tank to let it set and cure for a little bit, you want to take you some compressed air and blow through that, because you don't want to obstruct that with the liner, because this is where it's got to vent from. Now the problem I'm having with this one is, since it no longer can use that vent, then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to trade out the fuel cap on this. The cap that goes on this bike is not vented, but what I have found is some of the older gas caps for some of the mid-80s Honda V4s, like the V45 Magna, is the exact same configuration of cap. It'll fit on there, it'll look just like the original, but it's actually vented through the cap, so that way we can still save this tank. Alrighty guys, well, that's going to complete our video on how to put a liner kit in a motorcycle fuel tank. Now, you know, it's not real difficult to do. It's just one of those things that's kind of time consuming. You just want to be sure and take your time and not skip any steps, because you know the amount of time you spend in preparation before you put this fuel tank liner in is going to pay off big dividends at the end when you get done. Okay. All right. Also stay tuned for our next set of videos in the series on our 1998 Valkyrie. Our next video we're going to do some carburetor work. All 6 of them. All right. Well, appreciate you guys watching. Y'all have a good one. Catch y'all next time around. Oh, and don't forget, leave me a couple of comments down in the comment section below. Have a good one.